We do live in chaotic times. Chaos has even been turned into a science, it seems. More than that, here in the mid-1990s, we are indeed at a unique moment in time. Like never before, social, political, and technological forces are converging to create pervasive change, and of course, potential danger and opportunity for all of us, all across our planet. In this 1994 edition of the Hypertech video, we'll look at the forces creating the information age, an example from the Pacific Rim, and some specific implications for your business. Living and working in today's chaos, it is really difficult to remember that almost everything moves through cycles. The weather, the seasons, life itself, fashions, business, the organizations we work in, and economies have predictable life cycles. The industrial economy has been with us for more than 200 years. This economic life cycle has evolved through the initial scientific breakthroughs and creation of an industrial operational infrastructure before it really boomed during the last century. The industrial economy is now reaching maturity and old age. With the length of these cycles, it is sometimes difficult to notice the changes and react appropriately to them. Like the story of the frog being boiled alive, apparently without too much objection, by gradually increasing the water temperature, we simply don't perceive gradual change. Over a period of time, we adapt subconsciously and believe that things have somehow always been this way. It has in fact been widely suggested that we are already in the midst of a brand new economy, that we have left the industrial economy and have entered the information economy. It is believed that we are now about halfway through the expected life cycle of the new information economy. And this economy is not expected to last beyond this one lifetime before another one comes in to take its place. This is widely expected to be the bioeconomy. The way George Orwell's book 1984 was a precursor to the information economy, perhaps Jurassic Park will prove to be the precursor for the bioeconomy. In the new information economy, the fundamental sources of wealth have moved from being natural resources and labor in the industrial economy to being information, knowledge, and communication capabilities. We have come to realize that almost everything around us has information content, from television to education, hotel keys, airline tickets and boarding cards, and of course credit cards, and all products and services. Increasingly, it's the information content of products and services that differentiates companies from their competitors. Consider for a moment the way air travel is becoming totally informationalized. It goes beyond the sophisticated global reservation systems that link together all aspects of your travel requirements and enable you to select, book, and confirm the route and seat of your choice. Once you're on the plane, you're literally tied down and a prime target for information. You're literally in an informationalized seat. From here, you can watch a personal choice of videos or play computer games. You're able to shop electronically and have the items of your choice ready for you when you arrive or delivered to you anywhere in the world. You can call whoever you want to from your seat right now. Soon, you'll be able to plug in your laptop PC and transmit and receive email and faxes, at least until your money runs out. Then, to calm your frayed nerves, you'll be able to listen to Chopin from your laptop's CD-ROM drive. This is no longer your average industrial age airline. This is an informationalized airline and an example of the information economy in action, with informationalized services and products from marketing, reservation, new informationalized products and services enabled through new technology. There are three powerful forces driving business relentlessly towards the information economy. Let's examine each one of these in turn. Globalization is being driven by global economies of scale in research, development, manufacturing, and operations, differential resource and taxation levels in various countries, plus customer expectations and demands for global services and products. The customer will demand the same level of service he experienced at McDonald's in New York from his banking teller in Cape Town. This is a global and totally cross-industry phenomenon. Although globalization is proceeding at different rates in different industries, globalization is not a fad. You can't ignore it and hope it will go away. For all South African companies, this is an absolute business imperative for the next decade. Widespread globalization is in itself an information age concept, as opposed to an industrial age concept. What we see companies doing today are not the simple forays abroad that typified large corporations born of the industrial age. Global companies today are truly operating globally. Within the same global company, for example based in the UK, you may find R&D in Boston, software development in South Africa, administration and accounts receivable in India, and customers everywhere. Each location is chosen to maximize service levels and cost. Technology has taken time and distance right out of the equation. This kind of business would have been almost unthinkable in the industrial economy. The second driver of the information economy is technology. Technology is enabling companies to establish economies of scale internally, regionally, and globally that would be impossible any other way. Technology enhances their competitiveness and reach. It is a key driver of globalization and is in turn driven by it. But it hasn't always been that way. Let's use the analogy of an iceberg to look at the development of the IT industry. Way back in time, when the computer industry started, and for some time after that, mainframe computers were the only game in town. They were expensive and few people used them. During the 1970s, with the advent of mini-computers, small organizations and departments within larger organizations could afford their own computers. This process of democratization of computing reached fulfillment during the 1980s with the advent of personal computers. From nothing, the personal computer industry has grown to be larger than the mainframe and mini-computer industry combined. There are now more than 140 million business PCs being used, and it is estimated that there are more than 300 million computer literate people. Not bad for an industry that didn't really exist in 1980. While computer power roughly doubles every 2 years, increasing the so-called bang for the buck, for computer vendors this is not always good news. In the personal computer industry, the margins have become too small to support most company aspirations. It is extremely difficult to stay profitable when your product is getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. During 1993, PC prices dropped in the region of 50%. At an industry level, neither the mainframe or personal computer industry was profitable in 1993. Every vendor is searching for new, innovative applications. There is simply no other industry whose development is so relentlessly driven by constant innovation. The name of the game is be first to market, deliver increased function, and make a profit while you can, even if the window of opportunity is only very, very short. Alternatively, get into software and services where you can add value through intellectual capital. At Comdex, the computer industry's premier showcase, the software and services vendors already outnumbered the hardware vendors by 3 to 1. One of the most desirable products at the show was Morph, a computer animation product that a year previously would have cost more than $100,000, retailing now at $65. It was that point in history when Microsoft's market capitalization first exceeded IBM's. Of course, nothing ever stays static, and our IT industry iceberg continues to grow and evolve. The next big thing is already waiting in the wings. The computer appliance will be to the next decade what the PC was to the 1980s. The current flood of personal digital assistants, PDAs, coming onto the market are one example of this trend. But microprocessors are now invisibly embedded in many consumer products, from cars to cameras. In fact, the boundaries between the market segments in the IT industry will also blur. You will be unable to demarcate between what is a PC and what is a computer appliance. The same microprocessor will drive personal computers and the largest mainframes. The unique state of the technological revolution is best described in this diagram that highlights 3 concurrent revolutions in technology. computers driving relentless miniaturization, consumer electronics providing the mass production capabilities, and telecommunications providing the connectivity. Such a confluence of technological and market forces has never before been experienced. Together, they are creating an unstoppable new wave. Products such as a palm-top cellular video computer would have been unthinkable without this convergence. At least now, they can be conceived without being dismissed as science fiction. The GSM cellular phone is a perfect example of a converged unimedia product. It is a fully digital communications device built by consumer electronic companies, and in essence, it's a fully fledged personal computer. Everything is converging on one digital standard. This is not multimedia. This is unimedia. The basis for everything is turning onto just one medium. Everything is becoming digital. Technology in the second quarter of the information economy has already created the infrastructure on which the third quarter of the information economy will blossom. These are the new rules of the game. Competitive strategies will increasingly be driven by the creation of new industries, the restructuring of existing industries, and the capturing of competitive advantage through the innovative use of technology. The technology itself will radically affect all companies, whether or not they were significant users of technology in the past. This three-dimensional fusion of technologies is dynamic and will change the fundamental structure of businesses and of organizations. From hierarchies, companies are moving towards cooperative and more democratic networked structures. We still don't fully understand what the information age organization will look like. Now that we understand the technology a little better and are beginning to create information age businesses, perhaps soon we'll discover what an information age organization looks like. Together, globalization and technology are extremely powerful catalysts and are causing a revolution in business thinking, the structure of industries, and what it means to compete. They demand new approaches to management, and that is the third major driver of the information economy. Management approaches for the information economy may at first appear to be a potpourri of fads and fashions, recycled ideas with fancy new names, but the truth is that the basic principles remain the same. These are timeless fads. But implementing these timeless fads will require two major paradigm shifts. First of all executives will have to learn to understand and manage technology options. This is not something that can be left to the CIO alone. Technology and information have become critical resources, alongside with people and money. Secondly, we will have to unlearn the industrial mindset and the mainframe mentality. Whether we like to admit it or not, they still influence much of our business thinking. This represents the historic baggage that encumbers us, while all around us, new information economy competitors are springing up using information age technologies to compete aggressively and to create broad new markets. These new upstarts tend to use technology right across the value chain, rather than in just one or two unconnected areas. They literally create a completely electronic value chain. Sometimes the customer even consumes the end product electronically, as in the airline example. That requires a real paradigm shift in management thinking to compete effectively in the information economy. A key phenomenon underlying the information economy is the concept of the information highway. These are the trade routes of the information economy and are the electronic communication networks, including the telephone systems, local area networks, wide area telecommunication networks, and so on. These are somehow typified by the hair-thin strands of optical glass fiber spanning the globe, almost like an electronic nervous system. This is now being popularly referred to as cyberspace, the ether for man-machine communication. Modern communications enable information to be available throughout an organization or an industry worldwide. Simply consider the global airline reservation system or the SWIFT financial systems, linking customers, suppliers, business partners in a dynamic global network. 1993 will be remembered as the year in which the information highway went from hype to reality, characterized by the sound of investment capital hitting the table. In the US alone, there were more than 500 separate new alliances between companies positioning themselves for the future information economy. This included most of the baby bells, entertainment giants TCI and Time Warner, the old stalwarts AT&T and IBM, and many new companies. Most visible was AT&T's $12.6 billion acquisition of McCaw Cellular Communications, and Bell Atlantic's huge $32 billion alliance with cable giant TCI, one of the biggest business deals of all time, which now has been put on ice. These three drivers are moving the world economy relentlessly into the information age, and on the way are creating the information highway, literally the new trade routes for business and a new nervous system for the economy. Those then are the drivers creating the information age. Let's now take a look at a Pacific Rim example. In the transition phase between the industrial and the information economies, while the countries of the rich West have become the world's arch consumers, the Pacific Rim countries have quietly become the world's producers. In the last 2 decades, the Pacific Rim has literally been the center of a production and manufacturing revolution. Among this elite of the world's producers, the trendsetters continue to be the Japanese. Japan is unusual in that it tends to use its own highly regulated internal market, where prices are on average of about 30% higher than New York for the same Japanese products, to test, market and debug their new products before launching the ones that pass this critical and often fiery test onto the international marketplace a year or 2 later. In a country where public faces everything, it's not surprising to see such public obsession with technology. In Tokyo, it's important to be seen driving the latest Mitsubishi with 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and fancy off-road tires, even if there are hardly any off-road opportunities within 100 kilometers of central Tokyo. In Japan, there are already more than 22,000 private cars and taxis that have in-car GPS-based navigation systems, including display screens and CD-ROM-based maps. In the stores in Japan, fuzzy logic is commonplace, not just in camcorders, but also in washing machines. Fujitsu launched their home CD-ROM system called FM Towns in Japan fully 3 years ago. Thin-film TV screens in every first-class airline seat were also a Japanese-driven technology phenomenon. Today, Japan controls almost the entire market for the manufacture of active matrix thin-film screens. These screens are literally large silicon wafers containing millions of transistors, embedded between 2 sheets of glass. A failure in a single transistor renders the entire screen useless. Therefore, the need for extremely high manufacturing quality. World leader in this field is Sharp. Number 2 is DTI, a Toshiba and IBM joint venture based in Japan that manufactured more than 500,000 units in the past year. The hot new Japanese products are introduced to the Japanese market at the Japan Electronics Show and at the Data Show. These are annual events that attract hundreds of manufacturers, techno freaks and serious competitors who come to feast on a diet of the new and spectacular, sometimes despite amazingly inscrutable promotional ploys. And some never quite figure out what goes on and what goes where. Some of the tantalizing consumer tidbits at this year's show were digital recording devices, in-car video systems, and GPS navigation displays, digital television in every shape and guise, including palm quarters, and a totally redesigned video camera from Sharp that was copied within 3 months by several other Japanese manufacturers. Also, virtual reality glasses that can receive all TV stations as a bonus. Just the thing if you'd rather be watching the cricket test while at the beach. On the information technology side, the hot items were cellular phones and satellite dishes, flat display screens, portable computers from more than 30 manufacturers, tiny color printers, pen-based computers and personal organizers, credit card-sized PC components for every possible function, fax cards, processors, disk drives, and from almost every manufacturer. At the data show, the age of the laptop and the Lego PC seem to have arrived. Tokyo's Akihabara district is a maze of streets and alleyways where you can obtain every conceivable electronic component and product. It is where the Japanese electronic companies focus the introduction and test marketing of their new products. At the time the Sony recordable CD-MD systems were being launched in the US in 1993, the second generation products were already available in the shelves of the Akihabara dealers. It is here in Akihabara where the new products are evaluated by the most demanding of consumers, the kids of Japan. On a typical Sunday morning, this is the mecca where Japanese students go to play, learn and trade in everything to do with electronics and computers. Akihabara is literally alive with the buzz of hyperactive, youthful enthusiasm. This passion for technology is evidenced even in the attitudes of the very young in Japan. When asked what they would most like as a gift, the most popular choices may be quite surprising to our Western paradigms, and these are Japanese children between the age of 7 and 12. While Japanese children are gorging themselves on mass-market consumer technologies, American teenagers are tuning into massive public networks like Internet. Internet is the grand central station of networks that links together tens of thousands of computers and more than 15 million users. A virtual world that is already being called cyberspace. This is where the ex-hackers and computer nerds of the 1980s have gone. The information age and the global information economy really have arrived. Newsweek recently devoted a cover and a major feature to the new interactive world and predicts that the new technology will turn every citizen into a master of a digital universe, and that these new technologies are, in their words, hatching a new world. And it's not all hype. For the first time in 1991, spending on information age capital items exceeded that on industrial age capital investments. And the trend continues. Things will never be the same again. Clinton and Gore talk of information highways crisscrossing America. In fact, theirs has been called the first digital presidency. In the last decade, more than 14 million cellular phones have been introduced into the United States, and they will all tap into the electronic highway. More than 30 million users are already linked into publicly available information networks such as CompuServe, Prodigy, and Internet. In this, the US has a dramatic lead. The rest of the world, especially Europe and Japan, are scrambling to stay in touch. Internet alone has more than 15 million users, of which more than 30% are now business users, up from about 10% 3 years ago. Within 5 years, the user base on Internet is expected to top more than 100 million. It will turn the world's TV addicts from couch potatoes into couch commandos, managing their own virtual worlds. What can we learn from the drivers of the information economy and from the Pacific Rim experiences? As we enter the third quarter of the information age, technology will increasingly become ubiquitous, increasingly invisible, and also approach zero cost. Technology has long been the way we have re-engineered business processes, but now it is becoming the way we are redesigning businesses, the business network, and entire industries, and the total global economy. Technology now must be in the kit bag of every senior executive. This may require a fundamental mind shift, but is one you have to make. Getting it right can ensure that your company does not change slower than the market in which you operate, and that would mean gradual extinction. Technology always advances faster than we care to imagine. Even the technology vendors have consistently underestimated the impact of technology on the marketplace and on their own businesses. However, our ability to integrate the new technologies into the grassroots of our business continues to be the gating factor. It always appears to be more difficult and slower than we plan. You're not the only one who doesn't quite understand what is going on. Those organizations that do create a window of opportunity and capitalize on it will thrive, however short the window. In this global information-dominated economy, your business's future success may be determined less by your ability to meet market demands than by your ability to create fundamentally new markets. Companies like Sony continue to drive their long-time strategy of market creation. Consider too, for example, that the personal computer industry was not created as a result of user demands. Don't just extrapolate what existing technologies can do. There may be very little in your business's past experience with technology that will enable you to make the decision about future technology and your positioning in the future global marketplace. While the global economy will have significant effects at a national level, it is individual companies who will feel the biggest effect. Unfortunately, you simply cannot shoehorn information age technology into an industrial age organization. New information age organizations using information technology will leave similarly equipped industrial age organizations in the dust. You must transform your organization for the global economy and the information age. And it's exactly here that technology can help. Enable the networked organization, shrink the globe, and alter the nature of every product and service. And consider this. After 40 years of unbelievable progress, the computer industry has finally reached its infancy. With an imperative for this level of change, we can no longer just learn from the past. We must be prepared to learn from the future. But don't let the high-tech future worry you. Reality is always messy. Reality will always be a mixture of the enticingly new and the comforting, comfortable, traditional past. The information age organization will have technology at its heart and customers as its soul.